Hello, everyone. Diana Rankin here. So good to see you this afternoon. It's 1 o'clock Eastern Time where I am. I'm on the Eastern Time. And Sheila, who's in Amsterdam, she says, "Hello, Diana. I hope you're doing well." And she goes on to say, "Greetings from a rainy, drizzly Amsterdam, and I need some sunshine to get my mojo back." Well, we have plenty here, so we are sending you sunshine. How's that, Sheila? You can see it's beautiful. I don't know how well you can see out the window. You really can't, but you can see the sun is coming in. It's beautiful where I am today. And I think we're even in the mid 50s. It was cold last night, but we warmed up today. So yay. Juliet says, "Hello, Diana and friends." Hello, Juliet. So glad to see you. Well, we're going to get going here. This is a question that was sent in by one of our viewers. And if you have questions, you can put them in the comments below or send them to me via email. My email is really just my name, dianarankin.com. No, that's my website. Go to the website and you'll get my email. We'll also get a message from one of my books, The Master's Book of Answers by Philip, who is my spirit guide. And as you know, we just open to any page and there's a message on that page for us. So don't let me forget. Every once in a while, I forget that. So what we're going to talk about today is depression, how to cope and how to cure. And I think there might be some interesting, surprising things in here about depression. Sandra says, "Hello, family." We are family on this channel and we welcome new family members. So thank you for being with us. Okay, here's what Philip, my spirit guide, here's his wisdom on depression and coping and curing. Depression is widespread and growing in the modern world. There are several reasons for this, and we will address this, but first let us define depression. There is a depression that brings forth suicide. One who reaches this point is unable to think clearly other than to want the pain to go away. Taking one's life is a cry to stop that pain. Unfortunately, it does not work. One who takes their life still lives with the consciousness of depression, only without the body. This makes it more difficult to heal and will take much work in spirit world and most likely more human lifetimes. This depression can only be cured if the individual receives proper help. This is not the type of depression we are dealing with in our talk today, as this depression requires more help than we are able to offer in one talk. So I urge any of you, if you are contemplating suicide, please reach out for help. There in the U.S. there's a hotline. I'm guessing there is a suicide line in excuse me, in other countries as well. So if you are contemplating suicide or thinking of it, please reach out for help. Thank you. Philip goes on to say, "Today we will address what we shall call the everyday depression. By this we mean the depression that many, perhaps even most, experience at some point in their lifetime. This can be brought on by grief, disappointment, loss, or other similar factors. All depression is related to the excuse me. All depression is related to the body's chemistry that triggers a brain wiring change, which then changes the consciousness. The longer the depression stays in the consciousness, the more difficult it is to heal. The curing of depression always must begin with the desire to heal and the intent to do so. We shall address the healing of depression, but first, let us look at the causes. And again, I want to say if you are unable to pull yourself out of depression, please reach out for help." Philip goes on to say, "We have mentioned a few triggers: grief, disappointment, loss, change, or other similar factors. These are merely triggers. Let us look deeper. Lifestyle certainly plays a role in depression. Foods and environments can affect the body's brain chemistry. We will leave education on this to those experts while we move on to the esoteric causes. Those who experience depression from a spiritual perspective are healers who chose to do so while still in the spirit world. Before birth, this choice was made for one of two reasons. Remember, before birth, before we come in to this world, we make a choice as to what we want to do in our lifetimes. Not how we're going to do it necessarily, but what it is we wish to help the world, to heal the world, help our own lifetimes to heal, help our ancestors and those who will come after us to heal. So here are the two reasons that you might have chosen in your life to experience depression. Here's number one. And here's one. I shouldn't say number one because they're both equal. The person saw the need for healing this illness, the illness being depression. And this is also true of physical illnesses. I would think would be the same. So they saw the need for healing this illness and chose to first experience it so they would have the understanding of it. Often, but certainly not always, a loved one in another life took their own life. To heal this grief, the healer wants to understand. So if in another life, let's say you had a friend or a child, God forbid, or a spouse, take their own life, or you might have taken, well, I won't go there yet, but you experience the grief of someone left behind after a suicide. And so to understand that and to heal that, you've come into this life to experience that, heal it in this life so you can heal former lives and future lives. The second reason is the healer took their life in another life experience and are working to heal the depression and the pain they brought to others. When we're in such a deep depression that we can't understand that we are harming others, that's a depression when we need help. And especially if we are thinking suicide. And so, or thinking, I just don't want to go on. I can't handle this. When that happens, if we stay there, we need to reach out for help. If we end our life, as Philip has said, it doesn't change anything. It's just now we don't have a body to work through the depression. So we may come back into future lives to work through that depression. And we will heal it. It may take more than one life, but as we heal it, remember we help to heal the world. So Philip goes on to say, depression healers, regardless of the spiritual reasons just mentioned, are deeply sensitive to the energy around them and in the world. Excuse me. Once this is recognized, they must protect themselves from the world's energy and immerse in healing energy. This can be done via meditation, prayer, or visualization. One way is to simply chant the word love. Love. Just keep chanting that word. Another is to imagine the divine light of love, God's spirit, angels, a protector, love surrounding you in this bubble. It can be somebody you love who's passed over, but just feel that coming through the top of your head and being in that energy that others cannot penetrate, that energy where the love is so strong. And it is necessary for those of us who are really sensitive to protect ourselves at times. Not every moment, but quite often. I remember years ago, I lived in California and I used to go to the grocery store at midnight. And a new friend asked me, why do you go to the grocery store at midnight? And I said, because the energy, I can't handle it. And this friend, very wise man, said to me, well, protect yourself. Use your own energy or the divine energy of God, love, spirit, by whatever word, and use that energy to create this bubble around yourself. And now I have much less trouble being out in the world. Um, I always say I'm an outgoing introvert because I can stand in front of a crowd, but being in a crowd is much more difficult. And I think that's true of anyone who's really sensitive. Being in a crowd is tough. So we can simply protect ourselves. And that doesn't mean protect yourself from those you love or protect yourself from love, but when you start feeling drained by the energy around you, protect yourself. The friend in California who told me about the bubble or about needing to protect myself in a grocery store simply said grocery stores are about survival. And when I thought about that, that made sense. Yes, they are. They're about getting the food. And often people in grocery stores, it's like people in traffic. They're not in their best energy. So protect yourself. Okay. Philip goes on to say, it is important for the healer to recognize the vast majority of humans in the world are unable to understand the healer, who must carve out their own private world and create energy that sustains and nurtures them. This is not to say be a hermit. And Philip goes on to address that. This is not to say hide from the world, but to have a place of retreat and healing spot to spend time to gain strength for them to process their healing so they can then help heal the world. So we need, and I think everybody needs this, but the more sensitive you are, the more you need that time in nature, just away from the world, so you can regenerate. Philip goes on to say, we are merely touching the surface here, but we leave you with this thought. The healer must first heal themselves so they can then fulfill their soul's mission. This is not an easy task, but certainly one each is capable of. It begins with recognizing your value and the importance of being an old soul who has come to have an experience to help the world heal. And we thank you. So, my friends, those who experience depression, you're a healer. You've come here to heal that depression. That heals not only you, it also helps to heal the world. And again, if the depression doesn't go away, if you can't heal it, please seek help. Juliet says, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Juliet. Let's get our message for the week, shall we? Well, that opened quickly. I'm actually hearing left. If you heard left, that's a message for all of us. If you heard right, that's a message you need to pay attention to. So on the left, this is page 352. I love the way these messages just always fit so perfectly. The growth of a garden comes only after many hours of tilling the soil and pulling the weeds. The growth of a garden comes only after many hours of tilling the soil and pulling the weeds. I'm not saying, and nor is Philip saying, healing energy or healing depression, curing depression is easy. No, not at all. It's the growth of a garden. To find that deep joy comes only after many hours of tilling the soil and pulling the weeds. I want to tell you a story that I hope will give you a little laughter. Years ago, I lived in California, and this was after a breakup of a marriage, and I was in a depression. And I went down and stood on the edge of a jetty. Now, in California, the jetties divide here's the ocean coming in, and here's the jetty that goes out to calm the ocean to come into the bay. And I went down and walking to the end, it's big boulders create the jetty. And walking to the end of a jetty is not necessarily safe. And I didn't really care. I was, again, in this depression. Did I want to die? Not particularly. But did I want to live? Not particularly. I was in such pain. Heart pain, not physical. Well, it does affect the physical. So I stood at the end of the jetty and I said, come on, ocean, just take me. I love ocean. And it got me all wet. It just sprayed me, but it wouldn't take me. And that's when I knew I had work to do. And so I very carefully walked back to shore and started healing. And sometimes we need that kind of a silly wake up moment. I had mine. The ocean didn't even want me. Not only did the man, the ocean did. I just laugh at it now. But it is about healing, isn't it? All right, if you heard right, here's page 353, and here's your message. Life is created from within, not from without. So no matter what's happening around you, life is created from within. And I have to tell you, that is so true because I live my life in joy. Do I ever feel nervous or stressed or angry or upset? Of course, but do I live there? No. I turned 80 a few days ago, and it took me a while to understand a lot of what Philip has told us here. I didn't understand this when I was 20 or 25 or even 30 or 40. I was probably well into my 50s before I really started getting all of this. So hang in there, my friends, because joy is available. I want to say, Sheila says, thank you, Diana. And she says, you're too sweet for a salty sea. I love that. I will remember that forever, Sheila. You're too sweet for a salty sea. That's maybe why the sea spit me out. I want to just read this last paragraph again. And Philip does remind us we're merely touching the surface. And he goes on to say, the healer must first heal themselves so they can then fulfill their soul's mission. This is not an easy task, but certainly one each is capable of. It begins with recognizing your value and the importance of being an old soul who has come to have an experience to help the world heal. We thank you. And I want to say this also can apply to physical illness. You know, I always say my heart had to be broken so I can understand the heartbreak of others. I have experienced not depression that was so overtaking my life that I couldn't function. That requires help from others. But I have experienced, like all of you have, some depression. And we understand that, we heal it so we can help others get past it. I love all of you who are able to come live. Thank you so much. Thank you, my friends, for the love that you give to us, for the love you accept from us. And thank you, my friends, for the love that you give to yourself. And allow that love then to go out into the world. And Sheila says, look for the silver lining. They are there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Always. Always. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you. Thank you all. I love you. I love you. See you next week. Bye for now.